Hey, 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 welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal Podcast. Let's get it. Once again, we're back with a new episode of the Real Deal Podcast. It is a Wednesday evening, late edition of the podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. January 15th. I hope everyone is enjoying midweek hump day and get ready for the weekend pretty soon. So can't come fast enough. But I have a great guest on in the wings. So before I bring her on, we are sponsored by the BS3 Network. You can check out all the podcasts and all the episodes on bs3tvlive.com. Also, we're on the Roku channel, BS3 TV app on Roku TV as well. You can find the show on all podcasts and social media platforms, whether it's YouTube, we're on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get podcasts, wherever you consume podcasts, we are there on all those platforms. And you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, everywhere, just everywhere. So I get the real deal. So I am bringing in my guest. She's all over with women's sports. She's a journalist for USA Today's For the Win. Like I said, women's sports, WNBA, volleyball. She has you covered on all angles with women's sports as well. Also, All About Sports. She is the creator of that as well. Freelancer. It's a writer, journalist, freelancer, all those things. So, welcome to the show, Meghan L. Hall.
You made me sound great. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. I know we tried to do this maybe last year sometime, and I think you got on the weather, and then we try to connect. So I'm glad to get you on tonight because there's a lot going on. We got Unrivaled coming up in the next couple of days. We've I've seen you do so much things for, like I said, women's basketball, women's sports in general, WNBA, college, whatever it is. You are plugged in and tuned in. So I had to get you on before Unrivaled started. So thanks for the accepting the invite first and foremost, and thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, of course. It's always an honor whenever I get these sort of requests. I try to do my best to, make myself sound interesting. Shed some light on things that I do. But yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, and anyone that follows you, you like I said, you do great work, content, writing, all those things. And if you, like you said, if you're into women's sports or just follow or anything like that, Megan is on point because I've been on a lot of Zooms with her, with the WNBA and now with Unrivaled, and you got the questions, but you also uh put the questions out that other people are asking and kind of like whatever you tweeted and things like that. So it's like live tweeting on there too. So that's a lot of work to get all those answers and type them in at the same time. I'm listening, and I was gonna try to do that too, but I'm like, I can do it, but I guess I get distracted. Plus, during that, sometimes those times I'm just kind of listening in, and then I'll ask a question or two, and then I just see everyone when you're live tweeting it. So I think that's good. That's dope how you do that too. So I
Man,
really
it's
appreciate that.
hard.
I'm
It's hard.
sure.
It's actually really hard. Not a lot of people, well, maybe more people than I think know, but I have ADHD, so it's really hard to
Mm,
listen, concentrate on what they're saying,
yeah.
truncate it down because people are actually speaking a lot faster than you think they are. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to catch the highlights and like
Yes.
the essence of what yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. So
I
thank you
mean, you
so much.
do good work because I mean, you get the majority, as you said, truncating it, and you get the majority of what the important things that that they're saying, whether it's the athlete, the coach, GM, whatever, whoever's on, commissioner. You get a lot of the good answers, and you type them in, and I mean, just like that, it's quick too, and they go through those questions while we're asking, especially when there's a lot of people on
Yeah.
this Zoom, and or even if they're live, the ones that asking questions live. Uh, the Zoom, sometimes it just depends. Sometimes 100 people, sometimes there's 30, sometimes more than 100. So they try to get as many as they can. But I mean, you do a tremendous job. So yeah, definitely follow Meghan on all the platforms as well. So, but before we get into Unrivaled and what you're excited about and upcoming with it, talk a bit about how you got started. When did you get started, and of writing, the love for of being a journalist, all that good stuff. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, for sure. So my journey is actually it's almost like it's different than most folks. So let
Okay.
me preface that because it kind of went very, very quickly. I have a background in marketing. So I worked in marketing for several years. I was a content creator, content marketing manager for 2 years before I even started doing journalism. Um, but I would say in May of 2022, a buddy of mine hit me up and was like, "Hey, I'm writing for this site called Murphy's Multiverse, and they're looking to get into sports. I instantly thought of you, thought you might be able to put your sports knowledge like
Right.
to the test." And I'm like, my man, I've never written for like a whole site. Like I've written content here or there, you know what I mean? Like writing for the internet is very different. So I
Right.
did that, and that turned into eventually writing for a site, a company called Stadium Rant. I did some Colts coverage for them. So
Hmm.
it was just some sort of stuff on the side. It was nothing really like serious, or so I thought. It was just like, hey, this is a place for me to kind of put my thoughts or whatever else instead of just ranting from my couch. Now I kind of rant in a little bit of an organized fashion.
Yeah.
Right. So, but what happened was during that same sort of time frame, the fall of that year, I started asking myself, I'm like, well, am I happy? Like, what's really going on? Started asking questions at my job, like, hey, where's this role going? Like, what do you guys want me to do? And long story short, like, I didn't really get the answers I was really hoping for. And so I ended up doing some work with a career coach, and she's like, well, if work is not really going the way that you thought it would, like, what's keeping you happy? And I'm like, well, that's a good question. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm like, well, actually, I've been doing some writing and podcasting on the side. And she's like, tell me about that. So I did. It turned into this whole big like conversation. And it felt like, walking in the dark your whole life and someone says, hey, the light is over here. And so,
Right.
they like click it for you and like turn it on. And so what used to be kind of a side gig, so to speak, freelancing was now it was a real like sort of option.
Mm.
So I just kind of put my feet in the ground. It was more of like, hey, I need to figure out like, okay, is this what I want to do? I went back to school after I swore up and down I wasn't. After I got my master's, I was like, absolutely not. I'm done here. Like, good luck to you. I'm not
Like I'm
doing
done.
this. But I went back and I got a certificate in sportscasting from Full Sail, which was honestly one of the best decisions I could have done. Gave me a lot of knowledge on the industry, what companies are looking for, the
Mhm.
lingo, what it takes to actually produce content on the sports side, TV, off air, all those sorts of things, writing, all of that. You name it, we touched on it.
Yeah.
So that helped. But in the middle of all that, I was applying for jobs. And so USA Today came knocking, and I was a little stunned, to be honest with you, because I had applied for quite a bit of jobs, but they came knocking, and it was, I don't know, I would probably say from the time that I actually decided like this is what I want to do to the time that I started at USA Today was probably about 9 months.
Wow.
So like that was, yeah, from November to about August, September the next year. So I've been with USA Today now since September of 2023. And when I got to For the Win, it was more of like, hey, you're going to be a generalist, right? Like most of the folks who work for the Win are a generalist. You might have some folks who do some specialties, like we've got a couple people who it's football or it's baseball, like those are their areas of expertise, but everybody's a generalist.
Mm.
But one of the questions I asked when I got to For the Win was, what does your WNBA coverage look like?
Mhm.
And they were like, hey, we do some, we probably could do more. Like, if you want it, the floor is yours. So I had just spent the previous summer doing some freelance work covering the Atlanta Dream. And so I was really getting myself immersed into what I like to call WNBA land.
Yeah,
Um, but
yes.
uh, but yeah, that was a really good way for me to kind of bring not only my knowledge of the Dream, but the knowledge I had gained of the league and bring it to a much larger platform, right? So it went from just WNBA to, hey, WNBA is about to end, but would you like to do college basketball? And I'm like, sure. I don't really know as much about college basketball, but I know people and I know sports, and hey, I can write.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
so then it became like an obsession. I probably watch more college basketball than I have ever in my life, just to get up to speed. But those asking those kinds of questions and being willing to do the things that, that might be a little unconventional are kind of what got me here. So that's my long but short version of like, hey, I got here because I was just curious. I was creative. I don't know, I was terrified out of my mind to make this like leap, but I
Yeah,
figured I was like, okay, if I want to be happy, if I want to be fulfilled, like if this is a legitimate thing I can do, like I would be remiss if I don't at least jump and try. And I landed on my feet, which is fantastic. But I know
yeah,
that's not everyone's journey. So again, I preface it by saying, like, hey, this is unconventional. I will always be honest with people and tell them like my marketing background helped out so much.
right.
Um, and along with a heavy sports knowledge. But yeah, just asking those questions has kind of led me to where I am now. Now we've gone from WNBA to, college basketball. We're now expanding, or at least I'm expanding, and I want to expand my footprint into more women's sports. So you'll probably see me talking about volleyball. You'll see me talking about NWSL. You'll see me talking about PWHL. Like if it's women's sports involved, I'm probably going to be tweeting about it, writing about it,
Right.
making videos, those sorts of things.
I love it. And I always ask, my first time guests that come on the show their journey because everyone's story is different. It's not the same, especially when it comes to journalism, where it comes to broadcasting or podcasting or whatever it is in this space, media. It's a different journey. Somebody says some start, as you said, maybe blogging back then and
Yeah.
leading into something else. Some might do production first and foremost. Some might do entry level things and everything too. As you said, you came from marketing. Others come from different backgrounds too. So I think it's always cool to hear the journey of where you started from to where you are today. And like I said, it's different. You said from marketing now to journalism and writing. It's funny because you said that I'm gonna go back to school. I'm not gonna do that. And I'm done. I feel that same exact way. It was like, nah, I don't think so. I did it when I was
Yeah.
young and then didn't really take it at that time seriously. But then it was like, okay, if you want to get more into the journalism and everything else, you might have to go back to school. So years later, I did the same exact thing. So I think that's cool. Got a shout out from the Barbershop Sports Talk
Oh, what's up,
podcast.
guys?
Yeah, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. Shout out to you, Cody, for this interview. We know Meg from when she was writing on the Colts, probably should
Yeah,
shine WNBA and women's sports coverage for sure.
yeah,
Thanks
my
for
football knowledge is pretty deep too, which not a lot of people know that, but yeah, it's
yeah,
it's
cool.
pretty
Yeah.
it's pretty heavy.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Well, we'll talk a little. We got to talk a little NFL playoffs
Yeah.
then on top of that too. So we'll get a little bit of that. So let's talk about women's sports and how it has tremendously grown over the last. I mean, for a long time, but over the we'll go into the last 5 years, last couple of years, and everything too. As you said, you are in it, plugged in, write about it, and everything too. How do you see women's sports from just a few years ago to what it is today? The explosion, the coverage, and like you said, USA Today, you approached them and said, "Hey, how's your WNBA coverage?" And they said it could be better, and that's what it is. And now there's a lot of coverage now, and lots of it for good and not so good from last season. But that's a whole nother
Oh man.
podcast. I know it's been talked about for a lot of different things and everything too. But what do you feel of women's sports and the explosion of it?
Yeah, I would say that it really has gone from just a moment, or so people thought it was a moment, to
Mhm.
now it's a movement, right? Like, it is an undeniable force. I think that for a long time people said, "Well, the product wasn't good. That's why, it hasn't you haven't seen it as much." It's not so
Yeah.
much the quote unquote the product not being good. You have to get people to invest in it, right?
Yes.
One of the things I talk about all the time is my journey. I'm always transparent about like when I got into the WNBA, for example. 2023. I mean, obviously, I had seen WNBA games here or there,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. I'm aware of like some of the key pillar players of the league, but like actually sitting down and watching multiple WNBA games, my first like full WNBA game was the first one I covered for the Dream.
Mm.
And I
Mhm.
remember sitting in the middle of that game, again, brand new to this space, but I remember thinking, where have I been and why did I not
Yeah.
get here sooner?
Right,
Right? And
right.
that same sort of feeling is what people are feeling now with the explosion of women's sports. When you're turning on the TV and you're glued into whoever it might be, if it's Trinity Rodman, from the NWSL women's national team, if it's Alona Mar from the national team and rugby, if it's Caitlin Clark, if it's Stewie, if it's Fee, like if it's Asia Wilson, whoever your player is, whoever your latch point is, you're now tuned in because you're like, oh, I gotta see this. Like these
Mhm.
women are hooping, or man, this is a crazy soccer game. This is intense, right? But what people are realizing is that like you gotta value the product. And so the more that we see people valuing the product, the more you're going to see investments, the more you're going to see media deals popping off, right? You're going to
Yeah.
see brand deals popping off. I'm excited because it feel as a former woman athlete, like yeah, it feels fantastic to see these women get their just due, right? Like if my knees
Yeah.
had stayed together, maybe
Mm.
I'd be in the women's lacrosse league. I don't know, but like
Okay. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I played
Uh,
lacrosse in high school. My knees, they gave out on me like right when I went to college, but
uh,
but my point being is that like for those women who have been in this journey from then till now they're becoming pros. Like this is fantastic. You just saw, the volleyball, college volleyball,
yeah.
national championship. Lots of traction over that. You've got Love Volleyball. You've got Pro Volleyball Federation. Like there's so many leagues popping up all over the place because people want to be in. And I think it's about time. I think, truthfully, transparently, to me, it doesn't really matter why you come, but it matters why you stay, right? It
Yeah.
matters why you
Right.
stay.
I
And
agree.
if people want women's sports to continue growing, it has to be that you stay, right? That you stay and you're
Yep.
invested and that you're truly supporting. So I'm super excited to see it grow. That's one of the things that I have put an emphasis on myself and challenged myself with this year is where can I provide coverage in a way that's unique, in a way that's authentic, in a way that doesn't feel like I'm just latching on
You're
to,
jumping
the
on.
hot
Yeah.
thing, right?
Mhm.
But
Right.
you'll see that, and I think I tweeted it either at the end of last year. I was like, hey, I really want to focus on women's sports as a whole for the year. Like obviously, WNBA, college basketball, those are my bread and butter. I know them very well, but I want to make sure that I'm well versed because there are other areas and other audiences that we could be tapping into. And for me, if you've read any of my work, you'll probably know like one, it's funny, but two, we try to make it educational. So I want to talk to you in a way that doesn't feel like it's talking at you and it's simplistic and it can explain things. So if there's
Right.
something funny that happened, you're like, oh yeah, Meg probably wrote about it. For the Win probably wrote about it, right? If
Yeah.
there's something serious, same thing. If there's something that you're like, what is this? Like, what is this? What's happening? Like, yeah,
Where'd you find
nine
this
times out of
story?
10,
Right.
yeah, we
Right.
probably wrote about it. And
Yeah.
that's the thing, like we want to make it that's the thing. We want to make it simple for our readers to digest. And I want my sports to feel like, the way that I talk to my friends in my group chat, the way that like my husband sends me stuff and he's like, "Hey, did you see this today?" Like,
Right.
that's the
Yeah.
kind of stuff
Yeah.
that, that's the way that I approach things because that's the real, that's the authentic. And then I want to add a storytelling element to it. So
Mm.
not just those fun stories, not just, hey, this is serious or whatever else, but like the original reporting that we do as well, which I've had the pleasure of doing too, and I will continue to do some more original reporting this year. But that's been fun to be able to do too, to just kind of bring a unique and fresh lens to the players that we cover, the stories that we cover, and just a way that feels different than anything else you'll probably read.
I like that, and then I think that's when you bring a fresh perspective, unique and even different. But sports is supposed to be fun anyway, As I think that the element of fans and some fans they've lost that. It's like it's too serious now. It's too this, too that. Yeah, there are serious things in sports, serious storytelling and things like that. Then that's a more important. That's really important to the storytelling of it all too. And to go back to the women's sports and the explosion, I've always said for years, ever since I did the podcast 9 years ago, ever since I used to write too. I wrote a long time ago. Been a big sports fan for a long time. I always used to say almost every other week, if they invest, the fans will come. Like it's all about the investment, as you said, and that's the most important. And it's benefiting, it's reaping the benefits now over the last few years because it's investing. When you had networks that invest, you talk about media deals, you talk about all these brands that are investing and saying, "Hey, yeah, the women's sports it's been here." As you said, the athletes have already they've been there. From the
Mhm.
Serena Williams, from Venus Williams, from way back. And continued on from if you talk WNBA, from Cynthia Cooper to Cheryl Swoosh, Lisa Leslie to Rebecca Lobo. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Yeah, I've been a fan of WNBA forever, forever. Me and my wife. My wife loved the Houston Comets. I mean, loved the Houston Comets, and it just it's like I said, when it was if it's invested in all those things we're seeing what's happening now, not just in WNBA, but women sports in general. And like I said, it's here to stay. And you said you're not just here to become your fan and then, oh well, I'm a fan for this wave, but now I'm out because of this happened. No, if you're here, you're here to stay, and it's only gonna get bigger and better and continue to grow. So I love that you're like right on it and doing so much great coverage of all women's sports.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
It's still, it's a like I said, it's a work in progress, but
yeah,
I'm blessed to be here. Blessed to
for
be here.
sure, for sure. I want to get back to for the win and journalism as a whole. Where do you see um, journalism and media? There's so much on with it, so much talk about it. Young journalists trying to get into the media space. There's a lot of avenues, but there's a lot of things too with social media, layoffs, and that's just it's just different now with journalism. And so the landscape of journalism, where do you see it going over the next, if you could, I would say this year, where do you see journalism at what it is today from when you started years ago?
Oh man. I would say that's a deep question. I would say this. I would say that having been in it now for a year and a half plus, um, I would say there's a delicate balance in remaining true to yourself and remaining true and authentic to your craft.
Hmm.
You see a lot of headlines, a lot of stories out there that are very much clickbaity, that are
Yep.
very much like, "Hey, this is the it thing." I mean, what I like to call grasping for straws to draw conclusions. When you
Yeah.
write things, um, and it gets harder and harder to kind of keep your own balance and try to check your own self of like, oh, should I write this? Should I not write this?
Gotcha.
Does that sound
Yeah.
good? Does not
Yeah.
that sound good? Right. And I think for us, it's about it's always keeping what's important in front of you. And when I say that, I mean the people. The people are what's important, right? Like a
Right.
lot gets lost in journalism, a lot. And I even have to remind myself, these are people first that you're writing about, right?
Hmm.
These are
Hmm.
people first. They have
Right.
feelings, they're human beings, right? And I think that gets so lost in a lot of stuff that we like, people say, oh, well, they're athletes, blah, 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 and that's it.
Yeah.
So much more than that. It is so much more than that. So much deeper than that. So I feel like we have a responsibility as journalists, as members of the media, whether you're on TV, whatever, um, to remember that when we're providing coverage, to remember that these are people,
Mm.
to be fair and honest and genuine in our coverage. And I'll say this. I think everyone has to continue to maintain a sense of that balance, that middle ground of not being biased, and it's tough, right? Like you'll read something, you're like, oh, this is the best player of the whole daggone league, right? Like, like,
Yeah.
which is fine. Like that's probably a decent bias, whatever else. But what I'm talking about is fair in your coverage, honest in your coverage. Are you covering
Yeah.
the entire league? Are you covering different angles? Are you thinking of unique things that like not everybody else is writing about?
Right.
And I really appreciate that. Like at For the Win, like we do things a little bit differently. Like the most of the stuff that we write is you're probably not going to find on most major sites or whatnot.
Yeah.
For the Win has become, I would say, the standard of writing kind of how we talk to people. Like, if I tell someone like, oh, like, if I'm texting someone, I'm like, oh, they're cooked. Like, I'm watching the game, I'm like, oh, they're
Yes,
cooked.
they're done. They're
Right?
cooked. Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm going to write that the next day. I'm going to write, oh, they're cooked. Like that's the fun part about what we do. But I think it just speaks to a larger thing of like it's that human element, and it's reminding our readers, hey, we're human, but also like just it reinforces to me as well, like that I can have that side, but I can also have the other side when I'm writing about more, serious things. So I think just journalism as a whole has to remember that balance of making sure that you have fun with what you do, right? That you enjoy what you do, but also remember there's people in front of you. And I say a lot of that to, and you probably know where I'm going with this, but like the WNBA is a really good example of like,
Mm, yeah.
woo, we've had some polarizing storylines,
Yes.
this past season. Lots of like, whoa, because I think people are trying to continue to learn how to advance journalism, grow journalism, what works, what doesn't, what will people read, what won't they. Um, and I'm not, calling out anyone specifically. I'm just talking about in general, as a whole,
Yeah.
as an
Mhm.
entire industry. We had a lot of that happen this year, and so that's something that I just feel like we need to be cognizant about. Is like when we're writing things, we're human beings, and I've said it before. I'm not perfect. I'm still a young journalist, still learning, still growing, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
I will for certainly make my mistakes. But one thing I always try to do is be reflective of what I do and how I look and how I present myself and what I write. So if it's something that I'm feeling uncomfortable about, or if it's something that I write and I'm like, you know what, that probably wasn't the right thing to write or whatever else, it's something that I'm constantly doing, and having that sort of reflection time. And it also helps to have, a staff that keeps you honest too. Like our
Mm.
staff will be like, we talk all the time, and you could have a good idea or what you think is a good idea, and you throw it at the staff, and the staff will be like, listen, no,
That ain't
we can't write that,
it.
or like, or we're not going to write that for XYZ reasons. Like it's never just no, but it's a matter of like, oh, hey, you're missing a blind spot here. Or, oh, hey, let's take that, but let's tweak it a little bit or whatever else. So I appreciate that. And I hope that more journalists and more media folks have that sort of accountability to find the balance so that we can continue to grow as an industry.
I like that, the balance. Yes, keeping integrity, staying authentic, keep having a balance. And some of that's missing, as you said. There's a lot of that missing, I should say, in journalism. But you do find the stories, it- and you're right. The athletes, I think, it's forgotten from journalism, from fans, that these athletes are humans, and the storytelling is, I think that's the most important. When it is the storyteller, they're more than just the athlete. They're humans, and uh they're a sister, they're a brother, they're who mother and father. Some of it's just, I think, as we sometimes forget about that, and we just look at their play on the field, on the court. But outside of that, they do, some of them, a lot of them do great work with charity and all these things, and so yeah, I love finding those type of stories, when it's presented right, and with in media and journalism. And there's still, like yourself, there's still great journalism out there, like For the Win and other avenues, long form journalism. Uh, that's, I still like that. Enjoy a long read of something, with
Mhm.
that. I know there's a lot of quick takes, and, as you said, clickbait and all that. That I know that's out there too, flooding the market. But long form journalism is still here, and I really enjoy that part of it too. So it's good that For the Win finds these different stories and different perspectives, and keeping it, like you said, keeping it fresh, for those things. So really, Appreciate that. So, all right, just gonna have a couple more. Like I said, I wasn't gonna keep you longer than half an hour. So, because like I said, it was getting late, but we got to talk Unrivaled,
Yeah.
the new 3-on-3 women's pro basketball league starts Friday, and me and Mega has been on a couple of Zooms with it, which they're getting. You talking about investments and all these things. I mean, how many investments this league has gotten so far? It's good to see. I'm loving it. Every seem like every time there's a new sponsor, somebody
Yeah.
sponsor, something athlete sponsor, whether it's Coco Golf or Giannis Antetokounmpo, somebody, or it's a brand that's coming up. I mean, they're Fee and Brianna Stewart has really dedicated themselves to this product, and I hope and I think it will. It's going to do well. It's going to do big. But what's your since they got a couple of days left? What's your take on what you're looking forward to as it gets closer to the Unrivaled in the new league, and what are you most looking forward to even for the first couple of weeks?
Yeah, I would say this. First of all, let me shout out Unrivaled's marketing team. They are
Yes,
absolutely crushing it.
crushing. Yes,
They are crushing it, man.
yes,
There is content everywhere.
yeah. I love it.
On all 6 of their team accounts, their main account. I mean, I don't think I can turn on any feed on any app and not see,
Not at
Unrivaled
all.
content. And it's unique stuff, too, just fun stuff, more serious stuff. It's just been awesome to see. So kudos, shout out to them. Lots of good storytelling going on. I would say that for Unrivaled, I am looking forward to the all-star vibes that it's giving. So let me say this. At WNBA
Mm.
All-Star, it's so much fun because they're just out there having fun, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not really like it's not, let's say, Sky versus Fever. It's not, the Minnesota Lynx versus New York Liberty. Like it's not any of that. It's just players kind of having fun, right? Like you did have the
Hmm.
Team USA and Team WA the WNBA this past year, but like a lot of it was them having fun, them poking fun at each other, them
Yeah.
getting to hang out with players. Like that's kind of what Unrivaled feels like. It feels like all-star weekend, but like it's a regular, like that's the regular vibe.
For the next 6 weeks,
Yeah.
right? 6 to 8
Right,
weeks,
like,
right? Yeah.
and I love that
Hmm.
for them.
Me
I
too.
absolutely love that for them. They're getting to hang out with people they might not typically get to spend as much time with. They are learning from each other, right? They're picking up things. They are growing. A 3-on-3 basketball is super tough. So if you didn't get to watch it during the Olympics last year, like you are in for a treat because
Yes.
it is conditioning and it forces you to get good real quick. So
Hmm.
any of your inefficiencies that you might be concerned about, yeah, they're going to get put on blast. You're going to have to fix them like in real time because that's just the way it goes.
Right.
I love what they've done with the rules. They've got a shortened court, shortened shot clock. Um, they've got shortened quarters as well. Like it's going to be fun. Some of the other things I'm looking forward to, this 1v1 tournament. So you've
Yeah.
got a winner take all $250,000, 1v1 tournament prize. I am just looking forward to it because I know and just how good these players are, right? Like we
Yes.
see them regularly in the WNBA, so in a much more kind of, I would almost say, even relaxed environment. Like it's probably people are gonna get ankles shook and
Yeah.
cooked on a court, which I'm looking forward to. I love the competition. I love that they're going to give their best. It's also a way for them to continue sharpening their skills. So I think a lot
Mm.
of what you'll see here, you might see flashes of it, when WNBA season comes back. I think it's a perfect segue and bridge into the WNBA season. Really, it's gonna end right before you hit like March Madness with college basketball. So it's gonna roll. You're gonna get the end of Unrivaled.
Yep.
You're gonna get March Madness. You're gonna get the WNBA draft, and then you're gonna get WNBA training camp. And right after that, you'll get the WNBA season. So I
Yes.
mean, it is basketball, basketball, basketball. So if you're a basketball head like I am, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm thrilled. But yeah, I think that one of the other things, and this is probably the last thing I'll say is I was watching A Touch More with Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe. I was watching their podcast today, and Sue said something that I thought was fantastic. She said, I'm most looking forward to who's going to be a menace the most. Like if I had to make an all menace team, Like, who
Mm,
am I putting on it, right? So she
mm.
starts dropping people and she's like, "Oh, Brittany Sykes is on that. Jordan Canada's on that," right?
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I'm like, "Well, you know what? She's bringing us some good stuff." Like, there's some folks who are just flat out pests. Like, there are
Yes.
menace on the court. Enrique.
Yeah, we
And you
yeah.
also got to think of Angel Reese. You got to think of Fee, Stewie. Um,
Mhm.
there's a bunch of Dejanay characters, probably another one like who is
Oh,
just
yeah,
gonna
pest.
make Joel Lloyd gonna make
Joe
people
Lloyd, yeah.
miserable on a court.
Yep.
Like I am looking forward to just some of that really good basketball from them. But more importantly, I hope they have fun. I hope that
Yeah.
they enjoy themselves.
Yep.
Can't wait to see what this TV experience looks like too. Um, Also, I am going down to go see probably just as a fan. I haven't yeah, probably just as a fan. So I have tickets to the weekend of February 22nd, that
Okay.
weekend to go see
Okay.
Unrivaled. I kinda just wanna see what it's like as a fan. Like, I don't
Yeah.
often get to go see stuff as quote unquote just a
Right.
fan, right?
Right.
Like I'm
Mhm.
often my media hat is on, my journalism hat is on. Like I
Mhm.
don't ever just take that off and like go watch a game, right? So I'm
Yeah.
really excited to kind of just, hey, go to Miami, hang out for a little bit, go see some games, and really just see what it's like as a fan because I think that provides a unique perspective that we as media members probably won't, fully get to take in if we're covering, this league. So looking forward to that as well.
I love it. I don't have much to say after that because I agree 100%. No, I agree 100%. This is all the things I'm looking forward to. This thing said this 3-on-3 full court experience is different because you said is I hoop to do and if we used to do 3-on-3 a half court. I mean, I know it's the shorter court, but it's still full court 3-on-3. And you said people will get exposed. Uh, your strength and your weaknesses will be on display because it's an open court. So and you said it's more okay. Now there's only three. There's not five. So you don't have
Right.
those two extra players to really lean on. You said conditioning's got to be great. Who's going to be a menace? I'm looking forward to that too. I think Super gets it. Super really. I mean, she gets it when it comes to like with media and everything. She gets it for real. And of course, Hall of Famer and all that. And but it is going to be a great experience because it is going to, like I said, I hope they have a lot of fun. You hit on the marketing. I thought that was like the number one thing. One of the number one things we talk about the investment, the marketing. I mean, their marketing team is tremendous. I'm looking forward to see how with the media they did, because of the media night for the first night. I mean, they did all types of things. It was, I'm telling you, WNBA, y'all don't know this for real with your marketing and everything else. They're like for real, like this needs to Unrivaled is doing it. And they said Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart, they battled each other in the finals this past season, and now they come together for this. But Nafisa Collier, you knew she's ready to like, okay, the way we lost the finals, I'm going to get a little bit of back at them, and as much as I can. She's a beast anyway, so as a player, but I'm looking forward to see how how they said how the players and how they mix and how this. Yeah, everything you said. I'm looking forward to the big storylines. Who's going to be the I'm looking forward to say who's going to actually, they said, stand out as
Mhm.
it might be one, it might be quite a few, the best player. Within these six teams, it could be Brian Stewart, it could be Nafisa Carter, it could be Angel Reese, it could be anybody. But I'm looking for Jewel Lloyd. It could be someone. I'm just looking forward to see who's gonna really those few players that like okay, as soon as they step on the court, Enrique, it could be her. Who's gonna really stand out and really dominate and say every single night they can't stop they can't stop that one player, and if they need buckets, they're gonna get it. So I'm yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited for this league.
Yeah, for
So
sure, for sure. Same.
yeah. Yeah. So like I said, it starts on Friday, and I think games on Fridays. Is it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? Friday, Saturday,
Just
Monday,
Friday,
Saturday,
Saturday, and
Saturday,
and you've got Monday games as
and
well.
Monday. Yep. Friday, Saturday, Monday. Yep. That's what it is. So every week, as you said, from January all the way to March, and you said you laid it out, and then you got March Madness, and then WNBA draft, WNBA training camps, and WNBA season. Like basketball, if you're a basketball head like us, This is it. So I hope you enjoy you enjoy when you go to Miami and get to see it live and everything too. I've even applied for credentials to try to get it to cover a game, but then I'm like, geez, I'm like going as a fan too. Just to just to be like you said, you get those opportunities as a journalist and media member, and you get to enjoy it. But like you said, you're trying to get a story or trying to get some quotes and things like that. But then you go as a fan. I went to the Liberty game against it was against Connecticut, and we
Mm,
went. And me and my wife said we're going as fans. We went on our anniversary, went as fans. Even though we got to do a little bit, I got to do a little bit of some media things and everything, but we was there as fans, which we got to really enjoy that experience because it's been a long time since I've been to a WNBA game last from this last season. So it was exciting to get to be a part of that. So yeah, can't wait. So Unrivaled starts Friday. Like I said, Megan's going to be on top of it with all the coverage as well. I'm gonna try to get as much as I can too when we get a chance to do some coverage there. So, all right, Megan, like I said, I told you I wasn't gonna keep you too. I didn't want to keep you much longer than 30 minutes or so. So we could have talked for a longer time, but we have to do this again
yeah,
for
for sure.
sure. Yeah, but let everyone know where they can actually follow you, where they can get your content at USA Today for the win and all that.
Yeah, sure. So for my content and for our entire staff, it's USA Today's for the win. So it's ftw.usatoday.com. You can also find me on Twitter, on Instagram, on Blue Sky, on Threads. It's ITS Megan with an H because I'm a little fancy. L as in love, and then Hall Hall. So it's Megan L Hall on all those major social networks.
Yes, it's Megan L. Hall. Follow her for the win as well. Get a different perspective when it comes to media, journalism, things like that. And as you said, you are women's sports. You said you're on it, and you are. So again, I can't thank you enough for doing this. I really appreciate it, and yeah, it was a pleasure to have you on, and can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, for sure. I will come back.
All right. Thanks a lot and enjoy the season and the March Madness and WNBA. And I'll see you on a Zoom near you. And we'll be for sure be on there. Maybe somewhere down the line with some media stuff too. So definitely be in connection with you. So again, thank you again. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. You're
All
welcome.
right. You enjoy the rest of the night and talk to you soon.
Alrighty.
All right, that's a wrap for the show. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Megan L. Hall, as she said, with an H. So she's as fancy. So, but thanks. I can't thank her enough. So thank you again, everyone that tuned in and really appreciate it. We got more content and more shows coming up. So stay tuned and stay locked in. Till next time, God bless and peace.